Hi there. It is the concluding episode of season 3. Thank you for joining us on this 13 episode journey of making the book of Exodus make sense. Today we wrap it up with the topic, the tabernacle. You ready? Let's get into it. Papa Joe, take it away.
But first, the key highlights. What to expect in this episode. 1. The Sabbath as God's signature. More than just a day of rest, the seventh-day Sabbath is God's seal of authority, His claim as Creator, and a call to fellowship with Him. 2. The sanctuary as a living blueprint. Every detail of the tabernacle, from its design to its services, was a divine theater of redemption, illustrating how God deals with sin and saves His people. 3. Daily and yearly services. One story of salvation. The daily sacrifices pointed to forgiveness through Christ, while the yearly Day of Atonement foreshadowed the final eradication of sin and the promise of a sinless future. 4. God's presence, then, now, and forever. From the cloud that filled the tabernacle to Christ dwelling among us, to the Spirit's presence in our hearts today, and finally, the New Jerusalem. God's goal has always been to dwell with His people.
As we round off this quarter, the story of the tabernacle unfolds before us in Exodus chapters 35 to 40, like the climax of a great drama. Exodus 35 opens with Moses gathering the people, and his first words are not about gold, silver, or fine fabrics, they are about time, sacred time. He goes, 6 days work shall be done, but the seventh shall be holy to you, a Sabbath of rest to the Lord. Exodus 35, from verse 1 to 3.
But why are we still studying this? I thought this was exclusively for that congregation. Does it apply to us too?
That's actually a good question, Casey. Let's take a step back. Think about it. Do you think the people were only just finding out about the details of the Decalogue at Sinai? Was there ever a time prior Sinai, or will there ever be a time after Sinai? It was okay to steal, to kill, to commit adultery, or worship other gods? The last time I checked, Moses fled to Midian for murder long before the commandments were carved on stone. How did he know it was wrong? Jacob fled from his brother for deceit, and on his return, he put away all foreign gods to seek the face of God. Again, how did he know that was wrong? And the Sabbath, it was given at creation itself, long before there was even a nation to command. In the wilderness, within the first 3 months after leaving Egypt, Exodus 19, verse 1, even before they got to Sinai, where the Decalogue was given, we were given proof that they kept the same seventh-day Sabbath. It was woven into the weekly manna supply, one double portion on the sixth day, none on the seventh. The rhythm of heaven beating into their wilderness journey.
Point is, these instructions predate Sinai, and even in the future, there never will be a time it will be okay to transgress any one of them. They were binding before Sinai, and they still are today. And like Brother James puts it, if we consider one binding, it is an acknowledgement of the validity of the 9. We don't get to pick and choose. In the text we read in Exodus 35, 1 through 3, Moses was reiterating to the people the Sabbath law.
Okay, I get it, but what's so special about the seventh day anyway? It's no different from any other day. It's just a discretization of time into 24-hour slots, and this just happens to be the seventh slot, right?
That's an interesting analogy, Casey, but if we stop there, we're missing the point. The Sabbath is not just about a day, there is more. Let's have a closer look at Exodus 20. Verse 8 drops the instruction: remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Verse 9 to 10 seems to partition the week into two parts: A, 6 days for work, and B, the seventh for the Lord, the Sabbath. So the seventh day Sabbath is identified almost as a tithe of time to God, hinting at a call to cease from whatever else may have had our attention in the first 6 days, to now engage with God in fellowship.
However, verses 11 adds additional intriguing details. It reads, "For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy." The text identifies God as the Creator, the universe as his jurisdiction, which makes us his subjects. These three, God as creator and ruler of the universe, and we his subjects, qualify him for what he does next. He initiates a work-rest weekly protocol from the get-go and bids us to follow same. He then picks a day out of the seven, the seventh, sanctifies it and hallows it. Then he bids us remember this day to keep it holy.
Now, back to the question, Casey. After all we have just uncovered, do you still think this is just about a day?
Wow. When you put it that way, it makes so much more sense.
Exactly. The seventh-day Sabbath is God's signature, stamped onto creation itself. To tamper with it is like changing answers on a photocopy, while the original sits untouched in the teacher's hands. Tell me, KC, when the grading comes, will it be based on your altered copy or his original record?
That's a no-brainer. The original, of course.
Exactly. That's the one that vets your script. I'll be more concerned with the original copy and what it says. Here's the piercing truth. The seventh-day Sabbath is not just about any day. It is a token of God's authority and his claim as creator. To obey is to acknowledge that authority. To disobey, no matter how beautiful, logical, or rational the excuse, is to contend with his claim itself. It's that simple.
It is God's exclusive right as creator to define when and how worship is done. That's why he said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Now, moving on. At the core of this Sabbath law lies something deeper: a call to fellowship with God. And that same heartbeat echoes in his next instruction: let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them.
Think about it. The people had been slaves for generations. Their identity was broken, their faith buried under Egyptian chains. Now God was reintroducing himself, patiently, intentionally. Every command, every symbol, every detail of this sanctuary was a teaching moment.
And he did not just snap his fingers to make it happen. Instead, he invited them to participate. In Exodus 25, God asked Moses to call for offerings: gold, silver, bronze, fine fabrics, precious stones. The list was long. And beyond materials, also, he called for something even greater: hours of labor, skilled hands, willing hearts.
But wait. These were former slaves, wandering nomads. Where would they get all that?
Ah, Casey, that's the beauty of it. God had already provided. Remember when they left Egypt? The Egyptians heaped treasures into their hands gold, jewels, fine cloth. What looked like plunder then was actually God's provision. Now it was their moment to give back to God, not just out of duty, but out of overflowing gratitude for His mercy and mighty deliverance. And boy, with their hearts that were moved to accomplish this work to God's glory, the people were giving with such joy and abundance that Moses was told, the people are bringing more than enough. Exodus 35, verse 36, verse 5.
Picture this for a moment. A church fundraiser where the pastor has to beg people to stop giving because the baskets are overflowing. Hard to imagine today, right? Yet in Exodus 35 and 36, that's exactly what happened. Gold, silver, bronze, rare fabrics, precious stones. People poured out their treasures willingly, joyfully, until Moses said, "Enough! We have more than enough." Exodus 36, 5-7.
But wait, what made them so generous? And how were ordinary slaves turned nomads suddenly able to craft something as intricate as God's tabernacle?
The secret was not wealth or skill alone, it was the Spirit of God. He filled men like Bezalel and Aholiab with wisdom, artistry, and knowledge, every skill required to meet the need of the people of God, proving that when God calls us to His work, He also qualifies and equips us to get it done.
On the flip side of that is the willingness and commitment of the recipients of these divine entablements to use and grow these gifts for the edification of the body of Christ. Bezalel and Aholiab had been there all along, quiet, unnoticed, until God stirred the sanctuary project. Then, He not only delegated, He qualified, He equipped, and they gave their absolute best back to Him. Nominating committees, please take note. Here's the piercing truth. Your gift, whether big or small, hidden or celebrated, matters to God's mission. But it only shines when rooted in the fruit of the Spirit. If we commit to daily cultivating the fruit of the Spirit in our lives, we create channels where God's gifts can truly flourish.
So, if I may ask, what has God placed in your hands? Are you using it to reflect His glory? That's the real question.
I've just read through Exodus 36 to 39. That's a lot of detail. Every stitch, every measurement, every material. It feels so intentional.
Good eyes, Casey. You're right. It was not random at all. Exodus 25, 8 to 9 tells us why. It reads, "Let them make me a sanctuary." Why? Well, that I may dwell among them. And then verse 9 continues, addressing the specifications. According to all that I show you, the patterns of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its instruments, so shall you make it. From that point until chapter 40, God unfolds every specification in vivid detail. Moses was just not freestyling, he was following this divine blueprint to build a skilled replica of the sanctuary in heaven.
But why? Why would God insist on making an earthly model exactly like the heavenly one? Even if it is scaled, there has to be more to it than just design or beauty, right?
Again, that will be correct. It was not just about aesthetics. God was creating a living theater, a visual classroom to unfold His solution to the sin problem. Just like He wove the Sabbath truth into the rhythm of manna, He wove the gospel into the very structure of the sanctuary. The three chambers, the furnishings, the rituals, every detail was an object lesson of redemption. They illustrated one, how God abhors sin and deals with it. Two, how he saves the repentant who turn to him. Three, the ultimate fate of the wicked who reject him. And four, how he will finally secure a glorious future, a world without evil, without tears, and without end.
The sanctuary wasn't just a tent. It was prophecy in symbols, the gospel in action. Now, here is a quick overview of the tabernacle, its sections, furniture, and services. It had two major sections. A, the outer courtyard, having the altar of burnt offering and a laver for washing and cleansing. Within this court, the sinner would confess his sins, laying his hands on the victim/lamb and slaying it. The priest takes the blood of the victim and transfers to the holy place. This was done daily and referred to as the daily service.
B. The inner chambers divided into two sections. One, the holy place, having three main pieces of furniture. A. The table of shewbread, the seven lampstands, the golden altar of incense, and two, the most holy place, having the ark of covenant, containing the two tablets of stone with a decalogue, and on top of it was the mercy seat.
The ritual of the daily services transferred sins from the confessing sinner to the Lamb and through their blood to the holy place. So, once a year on the Day of Atonement, the high priest would cleanse the inner chambers, heap all the sins on the scapegoat after casting a lot, and banish the scapegoat into the desert. While declaring the camp and people forgiven and free from sin,
This was referred to as the yearly service. These two services constituted the heart of the sanctuary's purpose. Two of them, different yet deeply connected, were performed each year, the daily service and the yearly service. Together, they formed a two-phase ministry that revealed how God deals with sin and how he saves sinners.
A. The daily service. Through the daily sanctuary services, God assured those who repented that He forgave their sins and graciously offered them salvation. To receive this gift of salvation, a sacrifice had to be made, and each lamb, each drop of blood, pointed forward to the Messiah, the one whose blood cleanses us from all sin. 1 John 1:7, NKJV.
So every sacrifice was a shadow of the cross.
That is correct. At the center was confession, laying the burden of sin upon the substitute, and then receiving the robe of Christ's righteousness. Psalms 32 1-2. In that moment, the sinner walked away forgiven, clothed in salvation, able to rejoice in mercy. B. The yearly service. But once a year, there was something more. The Day of Atonement, a solemn day when God moved beyond forgiveness to deal with sin's final destiny, to eradicate it completely, to solve the sin problem once and for all, to secure a sinless future for his people. To find in Leviticus 16 and John 1:29.
And today, Christ's twofold ministry continues, not in an earthly tent, but in the heavenly sanctuary. There He intercedes for us, Hebrews 7:25, moving toward the ultimate end of evil itself. The daily service whispered forgiveness. The yearly service thundered final victory. And together they tell one story: God's relentless plan to save, to cleanse, and to restore forever.
At last, after every stitch, every beam, every detail was finished, just as the Lord had commanded, the book of Exodus tells us. So Moses finished the work. Then a cloud covered the tent of the congregation, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses could not enter because the cloud rested there, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Exodus 40, from verse 33 through 35.
The same presence that had led them as a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night now descended and dwelt among them. The Lord himself tabernacled with his people.
Why do I get the feeling this wasn't just another moment in the Exodus story? This was the moment, wasn't it?
Absolutely, Casey. This was it. The culmination of everything from the beginning when the plan of salvation was hatched in heaven. This has always been God's goal, that mankind be restored to his presence, that every privilege lost in Eden be restored in full, that fellowship with our Creator be fully restored.
And the tabernacle? It was only a foretaste of that eternal promise. What's wrong, Casey? You've been staring out the window. Are you expecting someone?
Not really. I'm just double-checking. You said this tabernacle experience isn't exclusive to them, right?
Right.
Then how come I don't see any cloud filling up my church? Do you?
That's a good question, Casey. Let's step back for a moment. This is one reason God Himself took on flesh in the person of Jesus. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. John 1 verse 14. And when Jesus returned to heaven, He did not leave us alone. He gave us the gift of the Holy Spirit, His very presence with us. And He sealed it with a promise: where two or three are gathered in my name, I am there among them. Matthew 18 verse 20.
So every time God's people gather, even without a visible cloud, the unseen glory is still there, through the ministry of the Spirit.
And not just collectively, but personally. Listen to what Jesus says: Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with him, and he with me. Revelation 3, verse 20.
So, KC, and my friends watching today, the real question isn't, where is the cloud? The real question is, have you opened the door of your heart to Him?
So you see, Casey, no one is left out. Everyone is invited into fellowship with Him, the church as a body, and each individual heart. But it starts with a choice: opening the door of your heart to Him first.
And when we do, it gets even better. John describes it in Revelation 21. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and He will dwell with them. They will be His people, and God Himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, no more mourning, no more crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away.
So for eternity, no sin, no death, no suffering, just God dwelling with us?
Exactly. That is the goal. That is the destination to live forever in the immediate presence of God. But don't miss this. It begins today with you, with me, with the one who still knocks, saying, "Behold, I stand at the door."
So, let me ask, are the doors of your heart open? The glory that once filled the tabernacle is still knocking and waiting at the door of your heart today. The question is, will you let him in?
And that's a wrap for this week and for this season. Thank God we made it this far. Next week, we begin a new journey in season 4 titled Lessons of Faith from Joshua, Moses' protege. Till then, I remain your Sabbath doodle, doodling out, still making it make sense, one study at a
If this message stirred even a whisper in your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Smash that like, drop a comment, share this with someone who needs a faith boost. And don't forget to subscribe to be notified when we publish the next episode. And hey, if you haven't yet made that life-changing decision to follow Christ, the invitation is still open. Don't wait. The clock is ticking, and grace is calling. Remember, we weren't born just to survive and pay bills. We're still auditioning to reign in heaven. No retreat, no surrender,